Hi, hello London. I'm so excited to be here. I want to just give a big old thank you to Charlie and her team, Ollie, Reward Gateway. It's amazing to be here and, hello. So I have the incredible benefit of talking to you about common sense, which is pretty cool. Meaning things that you care about already, things that I know you care about because you wouldn't be in this room if you didn't. So I want to stop for a second. I'd like you to go ahead and look to the person to your right and high five them. You got it. You got it. And to your left. All right, good. I mean, look, I did jumping jacks in the back just to get out my energy, so I'm looking at all these great faces. All right, cool. So I know that you care about all of these things. I'm not even going to go through them because you wouldn't be in this room if you didn't. So again, things that you already know and I know you care about. I have this incredible stanza in my room in New York in 2 different places. Why? Because the last part of it is all I care about. It is it. It is how you make people feel. It is the alpha and the omega. Nothing else matters. And I think Maya Angelou, we know, was an incredible person that did this, that brought it. And I just love this. So if I could get it tattooed, I would, but I'm not going to. I'm too old for that. So why me? Why am I here? Why do I get the great benefit of working with Gary Vaynerchuk? Some of you know. Anyone not know Gary? Please raise your hand. Okay. I love that. All right, good. That's awesome. I get to work with this guy every single day. Why me? I'm an emotional optimist. I believe the fact of the matter is that we all carry shit and shame and imposter syndromes and all of that in our days and on our backs. And I believe that we all, working in HR, working with people, have found ways to overcome that, to rise to the surface, because ultimately we're in the business of people. We are there to help lead them to their best selves. That's what I believe this world of HR is. I've had a very long and windy career. I didn't start in HR. In fact, I started as an Outward Bound instructor. I'm very much a coach and a mentor, and that's who I am. I'm definitely like an on-the-field cheerleader. And I found myself literally graduating college at 28. I really studied, I was a student of life. And I found myself in this world of advertising. I had no business being there. I really didn't. I was studying to be a psychotherapist. I don't know how I got in there, but I do know how. I was working at a grocery store in San Francisco. And this guy came in, and one thing led to another, and he offered me a job at an internet.com company, 1998. No Facebook, no Google. You know what it's like for some of you out there. And it paid me more money than I was making, so I would drive my little beater Saab to Palo Alto every day, and I learned the dark arts of digital, which got me into the world of advertising and marketing. But what stayed with me the entire time was my love of people, my belief in people, my belief that people can, with the right type of coaching, take off the imposter syndrome and identify and remove the limiting beliefs that they carry every single day and step into who they are, which is their best selves. And that's something that we can do, and I know we do it already in this room for people. So I met Gary, and he said to me, this is my remit. Now, for those of you that know Gary, he wants to buy the New York Jets, which is an American football team, which is a pie in the sky type of aspiration. This is also an aspiration. But this was my remit when we started to work together. And this is the remit that we have every single day at VaynerMedia, which is everything I do, everything my team does, everything the managers and the senior people do is to help get all of the people from the soil and the sides and the top stepping into their greater self. When he said, you know what, Claude, you're going to be the chief heart officer, I knew exactly what that was because I've been a heart officer my whole life. As I said, I've already, I care about people in a way that I'm kind of obsessive about it. You might not know that about me, but if you see any of my content, you know that I'm just a big believer in positivity, and I'm a big believer in the fact that we're all students here and we're all teachers here. So I said, cool, Gary, I've never done HR. He said, great, you're going to hire a talented team, which I've had the real privilege of doing, even here in London. And what I want you to do is I want you to infuse empathy throughout the entire organization and impact every single employee. Really easy to do, right? I mean, not really. So I said to myself, all right, how are you going to do this? Again, I didn't know the T's and C's of HR at that point, which was okay because I'm a coach and I actually believe that those of us in HR are coaches. I really do believe that. So I said, all right, well, I have to concentrate on the macro. I can't just go into the micro where I see potholes and where I see curmudgeon-y behavior. I have to look at what's going on in this agency in the macro. And that means I had to really study the culture. And I'm a very right-brain thinker. I skew on the side of empathy. And so everything that happens really, the way I take in information is intuitively, is in my gut, is I can feel the flavor of a room. I can feel textures, if you will, much more than I can read an Excel document. So as I'm studying this macro culture, I'm starting to get some cues from the people and the groups and the people that have been there for a very long time about this incredible community that they had built. What came to me very quickly is that no one, the only thing that was happening at VaynerMedia is it was a very, very friendly culture, but no one really knew what they were doing. It just, what had happened is they had hired very similar people. So it was very homogenistic. The similarities of everyone and the fact that we had apples and apples and apples allowed us for those first 5 years, I would say 4 years, to be very quick. We're an advertising agency. We want to be quick. We want to be quick to market. We want to be quick to innovate. We want to be quick with everything that we do. But what was really apparent to me is as I looked out at VaynerMedia from the macro is that we had a sea of sameness. And I believe that's not what the world is about. The world is about unique individuals. It's about diversity. It's about inclusivity. It's about removing othering. Trying to identify and remove othering as much as we can. And basically what it is that human beings are wired to connect. We are wired to be in community with one another. People matter. Skills, for the most part, are a dime a dozen. That's not to, I hope I'm not insulting anyone because we are all highly skilled individuals, but what really matters is the relationships that we all have with one another, the connections. Why I asked you to high-five one another. Just like connect with one another. It's so fascinating to me how we can go to work and forget that we're human. It's fascinating. It's flabbergasting to me. In the places I've worked in before, they expect us to just be titles. They expect us to not have an aunt in the hospital, to not have just gotten engaged, to not have something serious happening in our life. A lot of times work expects us to just come in and just be workers, and that's just not life, is it? We're spending so much of our time at work, but the fact of the matter is work and life are blending in a big, big way. I don't even talk about time management anymore. I just talk about energy management. Time management, I have no idea how to tell you to manage your time. I'm doing the best I can. I'm a brand new mother. I have an almost 4-month-old at home, which is great, and it's completely turned my life upside down in terms of managing my time. I don't even, I mean, I'm new. I'm an almost 50-year-old brand new mother, which is incredible. And all of a sudden, it's like everything I thought I knew, I know nothing. So I want to just give a big shout out to all the working mothers out there. And the working parents out there, because it does take a village. So Deborah and others walked us through this today. This is no surprise, but as I was looking at the culture, I started to get a sense of what kills cultures. Now, yeah, again, remember, this is common sense. It's like you're looking at me, and you could be like, no shit, Claude, we understand this, totally. However, I had to kind of sniff out where I saw this favoritism happening, where I saw some kind of public humiliation happening. Because let's face it, it's not a perfect, I don't work in a perfect utopia. My friend Kelly there has my phone right now. I can guarantee you that when I get off this stage and I look at my phone, there's going to be 35 problems, which you all have too, because we're in the business of people. Anyway, the fact of the matter is I had to really see where all the was happening, all of that kind of negativity and all of that toxicity, which ultimately ends up being just fear, right? So as soon as I could call it what it was, I had an opportunity to then go in and figure out how to mend the fences, how to bring people into a world of more self-awareness, how to infuse the agency with empathy. And it is an every hour job, every minute, every hour job. Again, because it's life on life's terms. So we already know, who knows this guy? Anyone work with this guy? I've worked with him before. We just know that disempowered employees are taking up a lot of our time, a lot of our energy, and the fact of the matter is that it's just work is not a good place for them, and they're disengaged. Deborah showed us actually a new stat, so I'm going to use that and update that, my slide. But culture is a business issue. It doesn't just revolve, or I should say, it doesn't just mean the HR department is in charge of making lives better. Everyone is in charge of the culture. It's everyone's responsibility here to cultivate culture at their companies, just like you cultivate culture with your friends, just like you cultivate culture on the football team. It's our responsibility to come in and bring our best. That's what I truly believe. Otherwise, you might as well just go pack it in. But we're in the people business. I'm in the business of people, of helping people identify and then remove their roadblocks so that they can be successful. By the way, I am not the hero of this story. They are the heroes. I am merely a guide. And it's really important for me to infuse that mentality to all of our other leaders at VaynerMedia, to really, really, really get them to understand that, listen, this isn't about me, it's about them. Every single one we work with. Whoops. So, I'm just going to say, obviously, we wouldn't be here if we didn't know that businesses are moving towards the heart. We are moving towards soul. We are moving towards a place of more humanity. You can open up any kind of Forbes article, HBR article, and we're all talking about empathy, leadership, what not to do as a new leader, you know, so forth and so on, like how to be more heart-based, how to bring more positivity into our culture. Everyone's talking about it. So I just summarized that and said, well, that's because we all care. We all know that to care, when we start caring about the places we work and we start caring about our individuals, you have more profitability, you have more engagement, you have more success, you have more creativity, and you have more innovation, and so forth and so on. I really cannot stand the word or the term soft skills. I can't. I just can't. You know why? Because it's demeaning and it's demotivating and it's shameful. I was one of those people that, and I love my parents. I love them to death. But what did they tell me from 13 to 17? You think too much with your heart, Claude. You've got to learn how to think with your head. It was like a gut punch. I mean, it's a gut punch. And I did. I took critical thinking classes. I was a strategist in agencies for so long. I learned how to swing my pendulum into a place where I could be more analytical and think about complex systems. But at the end of the day, like, these are necessary life skills. And you'll find me sometimes on LinkedIn kind of having a conversation with some folks about this term soft skills, because I really, why do we even say that? However, the point of this slide not only is not to bash the slide. The point of the slide is that Deloitte, who is spending tons and tons and tons of money on the big paper, and I'm spacing out on what that big paper is called, you guys know what it is, I'm sure, is coming out and even admitting that we need more empathy and self-awareness and intuition and whatnot in human development in our cultures today. So I talked about already in terms of, like, I'm a feeler. One of the things that is really interesting to me is that you really can't see culture. You can see culture in action. You know, maybe you have a kombucha bar, the cold brew bar, the foosball table. But the fact is like culture's like the wind. You can't really see it, but you know when it's working. You know when it's toxic, and you know when it's happy, and you know when you're in the elevator and people have their headphones on and they're not looking, and you know what's like when you pass in the hallway and you're going to the loo and people are like, hey, how was your weekend? How's it going? It's just different, right? You all know what happiness and joy and engaged employees feel like. this is, again, a common sense slide. However, as I was starting to infuse the culture with more, Gary calls it empathy, but with more humanity is what I call it, these are the things that were really interesting to me to actually name, and to find ways of bringing them into VaynerMedia. So, transparency. We've talked a lot about transparency today. Purpose. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Growth. Everyone wants growth. Everyone wants development. People want to be around a diverse population. It's not just like what we need to have because we need to have our numbers, and because if I work with Diageo, they want to know that I'm working with diverse suppliers. No, it's because this is a room full of diversity, and this is a world full of diversity. One of the things I say all the time when people ask me what our culture is about is I say it's a we, not I culture. I believe, and again, sometimes I have rosy colored glasses on, and I admit to that, but I believe at the end of the day, when I hand in my badge and I say, thank you, this has been the best ride that I've ever had in my life, I will have come closer to creating a collaborative we, not I culture. Again, being the guide, not the hero. That's so super important to me. Think about a football team. You know, it's not just the striker that's the hero. It's a we. You need a team. You need every single person on the team to be humming somewhat of the same tune to get there. Attention and generosity. I believe that as leaders, as human beings, but as leaders, it's our responsibility to be spending time with our employees, with our people, listening to them. What happened? Is their cat in the hospital? Okay, well, that's an issue for that person. Is their aunt in the hospital? That's an issue. Did they get engaged? Life on life's terms. I come back to that phrase quite a bit because, like, we don't control anything except how we treat other people and how we feel. So I just thought this was interesting. If you think about oxytocin and serotonin, which one of these acts creates what in your mind, in your brain? Oxytocin, we know, is the hugging drug, and it's also the high five drug, and it's also the playing with puppies drug, and it's also the playing with little babies drug. So I have a lot of that right now. I'm going to pass this because we've all talked about this a bit, but so how do we create a culture of belonging? It does start with people bringing their full selves to work. Actually, I will be honest, I've been saying best selves lately. I haven't been saying full selves as much because I'm going off kilter here for a second, but I think it's really important. As I'm listening and being around more and more employees, now by the way, we're 90% millennial. Well, I love the millennials. They're amazing. They're changing the world. As I've been sitting with more and more people at work, I'm listening to the mental health issues that are happening, that are real. They are absolutely real. I was in our office yesterday and someone sat me down and just said, I need you to know I have this, I have this, I have this. It's like, thank you for sharing. How can we support you? So I'm not saying full selves because whatever. I want people to be able to feel like they belong and they can bring their best selves to work. But it doesn't mean you have to change to fit the apples and the oranges and the bananas. It means be whoever you are. You know that old saying, let your freak flag fly. I mean, to an extent, I want you to come in and be who you are, because whomever the diverse person that you bring in and that personality and that uniqueness is going to add to this quilt, add to this garden that we have. And that is something that I profess at VaynerMedia every single day. I want you to be different, think different. Do not feel like you have to hustle like Gary Vee because he chooses to work 18 hours a day. That's his choice. That's his choice. And that is something that I've had to really work with when the kids come in, and they are kids, 21, 22 sometimes, that they're coming in and they're like, yeah, but I can't be like Gary and I have so much anxiety. It's like, fuck that. You don't have to be like him. Be like you, Bob. Be like you, Alex. Be like you, Alexis. That's what we want. The way we see people is the way we treat them. And how we treat a human being, especially repetitively, is who they become. As coaches, as HR, as leaders, everyone in this single room, let's remember that as we see people, even, we got to catch our biases, and we all have them. We really want to be promoting this view of the world, this view of people as doing the best they can, unless they can't. But it's very, 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 very rare that we're going to get such a bad seed that we're just going to treat them like shit. We're humans. So I think this is really, really important. It's something that I talk to new managers about a lot as they're starting to get their training wheels, is remember that you don't want to play favorites here. And these days, friends are managing friends. I don't know about your company, but we've got a lot of friends managing friends, and that's really an interesting thing. So, okay, diversity and inclusivity. I'm just going to nip it for 1 second. If we are not actively being inclusive and actively making sure that the CVs we look at and the candidates we bring in are diverse candidates, then we are probably unconsciously excluding an entire population of people. Whether or not that's race, sexuality, ethnicity, seen and unseen, handicaps, we just have to check ourselves. Or have someone hold us, have accountability partners. This is tough, though. As much as I'd love to tell you we have the best diversity in the world, we don't. I cannot, it's not only me, it's in the New York advertising agency, it's very difficult to find people of color in senior creative roles. Extremely difficult. And I just said to our recruiter the other day, if I see one more candidate like this, I want to be the company that finds those diverse candidates. And they're not going to be in New York. Okay, so we need to dig deeper. We need to remove the blinders that we might have and dig deeper. As a matter of fact, I removed on all of our job descriptions the fact that you need a bachelor's degree, because it just rules out a whole population now. As we have these, upstarts that are coming in. There's this guy that came in the other day, he's 19 years old. Hey, how did you get here? I thought he was a resident, but we've really hired him. Hey, how did you get here? Well, I started a YouTube channel when I was 13, and I'm a gamer and this and that. And he's probably bringing in $5,000 a week just on the side. I'm like, where was I that age? I know where I was, not there. So then the emotional needs at work that, yes, we have, and this population that I'm talking about certainly has, which is the autonomy that we've spoken about today, the transparency. Let me know my expectations. Do not micromanage me. We all know that micromanagement is just a form of fear. But don't micromanage me. And we shouldn't have to micromanage if we set clear expectations and if the roles and responsibilities are spelt out. We want frequent feedback. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. My generation, we just didn't ask. We didn't say any of this stuff. I love the fact that they're saying this. And by the way, they've caught us on our back foot. They really have. Like we just are moving from a coddling culture to one of radical candor. Yesterday I did 3 sessions teaching Kim Scott's principles. I kind of Vaynerized them, radical candor workshops, because we need to understand that feedback is a gift. Feedback is an act of caring. And so when I withhold feedback from you, I'm unconsciously manipulating your growth and your development. That's terrible. I don't want to do that. But I have to remind myself, everyone else, that it's okay to give feedback and all the ways that we want feedback given, such as kind and clear and specific and actionable. Anyway, I think you get this slide. So I want to talk to you about belonging, but I'm actually going to build this whole thing just so we can see it. So belonging, I've already talked about creating a culture of belonging really requires bringing your best selves to work. Okay, this also requires the diversity aspect. This requires making sure that it's not just a desk that you have and a laptop and a chair, that you're seeing other people like you, that if you're LGBTQ, there's a pride group. That's important. Now, we're not getting asked that in interviews, by the way, but I know that's important, and you know that's important. Belonging fundamentally is at bottom of Maslow's pyramid. It's safety, shelter, security, belonging. It's super important. We know that. Purpose. My purpose is very different than a 21-year-old's purpose or a 25-year-old's purpose, or it doesn't even matter what purpose, what year you are, what age you are with the purpose. But when I'm meeting someone, and when I say me, I mean the larger me, when we're meeting someone and we're in that interview process, we're guaranteeing them growth and development and opportunity. You give me, let's just say 50 hours of your time, and I'm going to give you at-bats, and growth and opportunity and so forth and so on. And I already told you you're working on Pepsi, so you're going to get to write some great tweets for Pepsi. And I already told you that you're working on Captain Morgan, so forth and so on. Now, what happens? So that's, by the way, that's someone's purpose when they come in, especially if they're not really aware of their purpose. Is it just 1 minute left? Do I have just 1 minute? Oh, we're done. Really? Oh my God, I'm such a talker. All right. All right, let me do this really quickly. All right. These are all going to go out, so we'll send them out. Okay, how do we create high-performing teams? How do I apply empathy in teams? Connection, high-five each other, share things with one another, so forth and so on. You start to trust one another. I connected with you early as soon as I got up here. I said I was nervous, I did jumping jacks, high-five each other, blah, 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 blah. Put on Snow Patrol, just say yes. Builds trust, builds empathy, this idea of like just caring, I care about you. I don't have sympathy for you, I care about you, which leads to accountability, longevity, and resilience, which, by the way, if we do this soup right, we get speed. And I already told you speed is the most important thing for us. We're gonna sing through this, people. The more connected and different teams can be, we know that everyone will reach success, and this is about diversity and inclusivity. The most resilient species, responsive to change, are the ones that survive. Put intention behind everything. Put intention behind cultivating your culture, and that means bringing in programs, listening and hearing that mental health is a real deal right now. When you see everyone as equal, again, how you treat people is what they become. It changes your relationship with them, and if you're a leader, that means it's going to help the rest of the team change their relationship as well. Focus on strengths. Be the bigger person in every situation. Again, that is literally coming from an egoless place. That is, just take responsibility. Accountability is so important. Take responsibility. It diffuses the situation immediately, and then you can get on to work. Then you can get on to the real deal. Size doesn't matter when it comes to acts of serendipity, when it comes to rewards, when it comes to celebrating and recognizing people. Remember, the idea of attention is the largest form of generosity. Giving someone your attention is a wonderful way to make someone feel good, and it has an impact on their day. We already talked about that. You gotta have Don Draper in a slide because he's amazing. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. It's just like brushing your teeth. You don't want cavities, consistency is key. And fundamentally, none of us gets points for holding back. So be your big self, and thank you very much.